Hi, this is Michelle, the baby sleep engineer. I'm here today to wrap up the crib to bed transition series with probably a long video on how to make the switch without losing your mind. By no means is this a step-by-step how-to. It's more of a bunch of ideas that I think will help make this transition go more smoothly, and I think every family should pick and choose how to do this. Generally speaking, sort of my big tips are: make sure that their room is safe. That means covering outlets, making sure they can't access electrical cords, bolting all of the furniture to the wall, making sure they can't pull glass picture frames off the wall and break them. So things like that, make sure that's taken care of. Beyond that, sort of my very general advice for making this transition and not losing your mind is to have a plan and to talk to your child about that plan. If you're making the switch, hopefully, even if they're not 3, even if you've exhausted all of your other options and you can't keep them in the bed crib till 3, hopefully, or they're old enough to understand. Even if they're not very verbal, they're old enough to understand. So take care of the safety, make a plan, and talk to your kids. That's the general stuff. Now I'll get into the nitty-gritty. When you talk to your kids, you can talk to them, you know, for weeks leading up to it even. But a few days beforehand, you're going to have a family meeting, and you are going to sit down with your child and talk about this new milestone that they're about to have. It should be a big deal. It is really exciting. They're getting a whole lot more freedom, a whole lot more responsibility, and that's really exciting for you as a parent and for them as a child. Maybe not exciting for you as a parent. Maybe you're dreading it. That would be understandable. Side point. When you're having a family meeting, go through what the new sleep rules are going to be. So are the new sleep rules going to be, you need to stay in your bed all night? Is the rule going to be you need to stay in your room all night? What are the rules? That's going to be unique to your family. But if they were in a crib that had 4 walls, they knew what their boundary was. It was very clear. We didn't have to teach them that. But when they move to a bed, we have to teach them what the new boundary is. There's no default answer. There's nothing. We can't assume they know what the boundary is. So we need to come up with that. And it's fun. You know, they're 2, they're 3, they're 4. Turn it into an art project. So you write out your sleep rules. After we sing songs, you get in your bed and you stay there all night. Or you stay in your room all night until your green clock turns green, or your clock turns green, or whatever it is. Turn it into an art project. Write it out. Let them decorate it with stickers. Hang it up in their room. And every night, before you go to bed, even in the days leading up to the transition, you talk about, these are our sleep rules. And you can even add into the mix, what are mom and dad's sleep rules? Or what are mom and mom's sleep rules? Or dad and dad's sleep rules? How do we as parents, what sleep rules do we have? Do we follow? That's helpful as well. In terms of what the rules should be, that's going to be unique for every family. But sort of the baseline rule is where is your child supposed to be until morning? I prefer that the rule is they have to stay in their room, because asking them to stay in their bed is a tall ask. And then if they're 3 feet from their bed reading a book, are you supposed to go in and take them to their bed? I don't know. I think it's difficult to enforce, and I think leads to frustration, I think, for all parties involved. So my preference, if you're on the fence, my advice is to make the room the new crib. So they can do anything they want in their room, which you've made safe, and leave it at that. In terms of keeping them in their rooms, there's a few options. So you can put up a actual physical boundary, which would be sort of like the walls of a crib. That can be in the form, my personal favorite is a baby gate. Yeah, so if you don't want to go that route, if you want to give them the freedom to leave their room for whatever reason, if they start to come out of the room for unreasonable reasons, we want to return them to their bed silently. That means minimal or ideally no talking, minimal or ideally no eye contact. We're not tucking them in again. We're not giving them songs again. We're not giving them any of this reinforcement to come back out of their room. So we're trying to make our interaction with them as boring, as uninteresting as possible, so that they learn that getting out of bed doesn't really get them anything. If your child does, sometimes your child might need something. Some ways to deal with this are what's called, leaving your room tickets. So maybe every night your kid gets 2 tickets and they can use that ticket for however they want. If one night they just want extra hugs, or they need water, or they need to go to the bathroom, they're free to use their tickets to exit their room. And once their tickets are gone, they're no longer they're not allowed to leave their room. I've heard this being very successful, in that a lot of parents or a lot of children are so concerned with losing their tickets, with running out of tickets, that they don't want to get out for any reason whatsoever. So that can be a successful tactic. If you want to go the sort of reward chart way, so having a sticker chart, and every day that they stay in their bed all night or stay in their room all night without coming out, they get a sticker, and maybe after they get weeks worth of stickers, they get to reach their hand into this like mystery surprise toy bag, which you've filled with things from the dollar store. My advice with any sort of reward system is make the rewards small, because if you make them big and your child starts earning them often, that can get very expensive. Other tips in terms of what kind of bed to use: toddler bed, queen size bed, full size bed, king size bed. Take the railing off the crib. It doesn't really matter. If you're worried about your child falling out of bed, they make rails that you can attach to, I think, any bed or any mattress. You can also use pool noodles underneath the sheets to keep them from rolling off. Other people have found that putting a mattress on the floor works fine as well, and then if the kid does roll off, it's not much of a drop. That's sort of up to you. One thing that a lot of people do to sort of build up this transition is to take their kids to a store and let them pick out new bedding for their new bed. So that can be fun. That's something I'm looking forward to with my daughter. I probably more than she is looking forward to it, but that's another thing that can sort of build up the hype and sort of make this milestone a big deal. My daughter's room is pretty empty of all toys. That's just the way we've laid things out. Her room is just for sleeping and sleeping only. But if you have a lot of toys in your room, in the child's bedroom, it might make sense to at least temporarily remove those toys if you have a place to put them, so that they don't go from I sleep in a boring crib to suddenly I have access to all of my toys. It can be disruptive. So that's one thing that you can do. But it doesn't have to be forever. It can be temporary. A lot of times, so we're giving our children, even with a baby gate, we're giving them whatever, like 10 times the square footage. We're giving them a lot of freedom and a lot of access to things to explore. So you may find that your child maybe sleeps well at night, but is suddenly not napping ever, because they have their books and they have their toys and they have this whole room to explore. So one thing you can do is sort of remove those distractions to encourage sleep. Hit those early bedtimes. If your child is suddenly skipping naps, check out my super early bedtimes video for more on that. But naps often will come back. This is a big transition for them, and I wouldn't worry that they're gone forever, but it's something to prepare yourself for. They may just play instead of nap, and that's just sort of part of the transition. But if you're consistent and if you can remove some of those distractions, likely those naps will come back. I love the OK to Wait clock. They're great for toddlers. I think they're great to introduce long before the transition, but they're marketed for 3 and up, so a lot of people introduce them after the child is in a bed. If you don't have one already and you have a toddler, go out and get one. They're my favorite tool. I'll be doing a video, hope maybe this week, about the best way to introduce them, but they're also great tools for keeping your child in bed longer. And I could probably talk about this for 10 more minutes, but this is already so long, and if you're still watching, thank you for hanging in there with me. Feel free to comment with questions if there's something I didn't cover, and if you have a toddler like I do, getting ready to transition to a bed, good luck.